right, the end is almost here as this season's national championship game goes down in Atlanta between Notre Dame and Ohio State. So we're bringing in the big guns, all of our college football analysts, to discuss the spread, the total, player props, and storylines for the big game. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right into the action with former Michigan Wolverine, current analyst for the Big Ten Network, our guy Jake Butt. Jake, how you making out?
Joe, I'm doing good. It's bittersweet because it's sad the season's coming to an end here. Like one more game, it feels like you blink and it flies by. But I am excited. I know we talked a ton about the playoff structure. I'm excited. This is a fresh matchup. Ohio State, Notre Dame. I'm so happy it's not Alabama, Georgia. And I'm happy that the 12-team playoff allowed us the chance to see the run that Ohio State's been on. They wouldn't have made it in a 4-team playoff in the run that Notre Dame's been on. So it's bittersweet. It's coming to an end. Excited for both these teams, both these coaches, both these programs to, go have one final attempt to bring home a title.
Yeah, hopefully we get a great game here on Monday night. Okay, so let's start with this. I want to ask you this as a former player. So when I'm watching these big college games, whether it be the national championship game for basketball or for football, I think to myself, this is easily the biggest game that most of these guys are going to play in. And sometimes it's visible, the nerves, a very high pressure situation. So how much is how much of a factor are nerves, and do teams actually do anything to prepare the players for high pressure situations like these championship games?
Yeah, it's a big factor for sure. I mean, how couldn't it be? And I think one of the big things is like, as a player, you talk about getting in the zone. When you're in the zone, you forget about everything else outside, right? You're just hyper focused on the moment. But in these national championship games, it becomes a theatric production. Like your warm-ups change, the pregame routine changes. You can feel an energetic buzz in the stadium. So most players, how could you not become aware of the gravity and the magnitude of the moment? I think the best thing coaches can do is stick to your routine. Make everything business as usual. You don't want to pretend it doesn't exist, but you do want to have a routine and a battle rhythm that you've leaned on all season to help get those guys settled in. I also think the early game, the openers. So, of course, I know we've talked about it. Each offense has their 10-play rack, their openers. Trying to find that early game success can do a ton to settle your team in. I always felt as a pass catcher, I wanted to get that first catch out of the way. I wanted to catch something easy, touch the ball early in the game, take that first hit. All that kind of just it helps you shake off some of the noise and the volume. But we saw this. I mean, Carnell Tate for Ohio State, that guy's a stud wide receiver. Dropped an easy touchdown early in that Ohio State-Texas game. I know it didn't matter, but this is a real thing, and the coaches and rhythm and routine is the key to getting settled in.
Okay, so at the time of this recording, Ohio State, they're up to an 8.5-point favorite. It was 7.5 yesterday, so this one is on the move. We know Notre Dame's going to have plenty of backers, so if you want to take them to win the game outright, coming in at around plus 290 on the money line, what is the path to victory, not covering, to winning the game for the Fighting Irish here?
Look, I don't like this bet. I think Ohio State, I'm going to bury the lead here. I think Ohio State is the better team. I think Ohio State wins this game easily. But if there was a way for Notre Dame to win, and we can maybe, as far as deep in X's and O's as you want to go, Joe, we can go. No one plays more man-to-man coverage than Notre Dame, okay? But no one plays man-to-man coverage better than Notre Dame. The problem is they're going up against the Avengers. Ohio State has Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, both first-rounders. Jeremiah Smith may be the greatest college wide receiver of all time. That's not hyperbole. They also got Carnell Tate, okay? Most teams aren't going to play those guys in man-to-man coverage. Notre Dame will. But can they mix in some zone coverage? Because the formula here is forcing turnovers. Notre Dame has to do something to get to +2, I would say, at minimum in the turnover margin. Take the ball away, confuse Will Howard, help out your secondary, and then capitalize on turnover opportunities. +2, +3. The other thing there is special teams. Can they have a fake punt or a fake field goal, something to get points on the board or extend drives so then they can go score points? They have to win in a little bit obscure ways. If you're just talking about Ohio State and Notre Dame standing in front of each other, a boxing match for 60 minutes, Ohio State's going to win 100 out of 100, 100 out of 100. They're just a better team. The good thing is Notre Dame, that defense, they do force a ton of turnovers on the season. That's a positive. Ohio State is they're giving up about 1 turnover per game on average. Notre Dame has to get that to 2 or 3, and then Marcus Freeman has to find a way to create some advantage in the special teams game to sway the margins in their favor.
Okay, so outside of the quarterbacks, which player on each team do you think will have the biggest impact on the outcome of the game?
I'll answer it by saying who needs to have the biggest impact. Okay. And we'll start with Notre Dame. Jeremiah Love, the star running back for Notre Dame, his health is key. He is an absolute stud. The offense runs through Jeremiah Love. He's been dealing with a knee injury. He's wearing a big, hefty brace. It clearly has affected him, but yet he was still able to have that ferocious touchdown where he bounced off 6 or 7 Penn State defenders and walked in for a touchdown for Notre Dame against Penn State. I think the other one is not a player. It's going to be defensive coordinator Al Golden for Notre Dame. And I go back to what I'm saying here. The structure of Notre Dame's defense, they play man coverage. They play it more than anyone in college football statistically. They play it better than anyone in college football statistically. I don't think they're going to change who they are defensively, but I do think, just to expand on my previous point, what Al Golden can do is show like a pre-snap image that to get Will Howard to say, oh, that's man coverage. I've seen this on film, and predetermine where he's going to go with the ball. And then Al Golden, 8 to 10 times, just a handful of times, don't change who you are, but show that pre-snap man picture and then bring fire zone pressure and drop a zone guy into that throwing window and pick the ball off. Al Golden and Jeremiah Love. Then I would say for Ohio State, I'm looking at Emeka Egbuka and Carnell Tate. Obviously, we know Jeremiah Smith is a stud. But if you're Notre Dame, you have to commit resources and double team Jeremiah Smith. That's where Emeka Egbuka and then Carnell Tate, who led the team in receptions and yards, can show up big time. Defensively, it's going to be Tyleik Williams in the middle of the Buckeye defensive line, being extremely disruptive and making running the ball really hard, for Ohio State's defensive line against Notre Dame's rushing attack.
Okay, it is time for some best bets here. You like something for the side, and you like a couple of props here as well. So you're going to put your money where your mouth is. You really like Ohio State here. Never mind the 8.5 point spread. You're going to go with an alt spread. You're going to take Ohio State minus 13.5. That's right at around plus 140 odds. So why do you like them so much, and why are you so confident in the big number here?
I hope we see a good game. I can see this one getting out of hand. Okay. Notre Dame is completely reliant on their ability to run the ball. They're facing the best run defense in college football. The Ohio State defensive line, all 4 guys, NFLers. 3 of the 4 are first or second rounders. Okay. The linebackers are playing out of their mind. And then Caleb Downs is one of the best safeties in the history of college football. Ooh. And what Ohio State's done defensively, they just stick him in the middle and say, go find the ball like a heat-seeking missile. It is going Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, all have struggled to run the ball. Notre Dame, they got a good rushing attack, but that's a beat-up offensive line. I foresee them having trouble running the ball. And Riley Leonard is not a guy that's going to beat you with his arm. Okay, so then Notre Dame, I don't see a scenario where they score more than 21 points. I'm just being honest. Then the flip side is they're going to play this man-to-man coverage, and it's a great story, and it's inspiring, and I respect it. But man-to-man coverage is where explosive plays happen, because as soon as Jeremiah Smith beats you off the line of scrimmage, Will Howard is going to throw the ball up and he's going to come down with it. I also think, let's say they play great coverage. Okay. Let's say they're in position. This is like in the NBA where you can play great defense against Steph Curry or LeBron James. Elite offense always wins. You can have a hand in LeBron's face. if he's going to make the shot, he's going to make the shot. You can be in great position against Jeremiah Smith. He's still going to come down with the ball. Tennessee and Oregon know that all too well. So this is a scenario where I just, it's going to be hard for Notre Dame to score points. I'm definitely confident Ohio State's going to score points. And the last thing I'll say, just from like an advanced stat statistic, Ohio State's offensive line has been beat up. So what they've done is they've switched to a more gap scheme rushing attack in the postseason. Okay, that is a big plus for those two running backs in the offensive line. PFF grades defenses. Notre Dame has the 75th ranked run defense against gap scheme rushing attacks. They're 91st in terms of yards per rushing attempt after contact when facing gap scheme. We know these Ohio State running backs are elite. That's a dynamic duo. So all these things are just adding up where this is a favorable matchup for Ohio State. Not to mention, they're playing like a team that's completely inspired right now.
A total buzzsaw coming into this game. Okay, Jake, so everyone loves a good anytime touchdown scorer bet. Who do you like to get into the end zone here on Monday night?
Well, to that point, it's Ohio State running back Quinshon Judkins, and he's kind of been their bell cow down close to the goal line. You know, Travion Henderson is a guy we saw the explosive touchdown against Texas. He's their explosive touchdown guy. But if Ohio State gets down inside the 10, inside the 5, the closer to the goal line, the more I'm confident they're going to hand the ball off to Judkins, and he's going to find a way to get in the end zone. Not only is Notre Dame beat up on the offensive line, they're also beat up on the defensive line a little bit. And again, this Buckeye offense is playing like a team inspired. There's so many other things you have to consider when Ohio State's on offense that you should be factoring in a Judkins run, but you have other things to consider. It makes life a little bit even easier on what's already a great running back in Judkins.
Okay, Jake, you're bringing the heat here on your appearance today. You have two more rushing props that you like. Break these both down for us.
Okay, Riley Leonard. I'm going to go over rushing attempts, over 13 and a half rushing attempts, and I'll explain why. The first one is in college, sacks count as a rushing attempt. Okay, Ohio State, I believe, has 16 sacks in the postseason. This defense is playing out of their mind. Okay, so I expect there to be a handful of sacks there already. We also already mentioned Jeremiah Love, their running back, has been beat up. So they're going to the Notre Dame rushing attack in the postseason has already relied heavily on Riley Leonard's ability to run the ball. So sacks are going to get you to 2 or 3 or 4 attempts. Now you're under 10. Organically, there's going to be at least 5 or 6 or 7 designed quarterback runs. And then I think what's going to happen is Ohio State's going to jump out to a lead, which is going to force Riley Leonard to throw the ball. The problem is there's going to be nowhere for him to throw the ball, and he's just going to tuck it and run organically. So for Notre Dame to win, they're going to have to do it on the back of their quarterback. You know, there's a case to be made in prior games. We can't run our quarterback the entire time because he's going to be beat up. Well, this is the national championship game. There's no saving for tomorrow. Empty the tank. Riley Leonard is going to have 15 plus rushing attempts because he's going to have to for Notre Dame to win.
I like that angle. And was there one more?
One more. Travion Henderson, Ohio State running back, under 10 and a half rushing attempts. So I believe he's only had 11 or more rushing attempts twice this season. Okay, so this is a trend to follow anyways. And if you just think about it, if you're Chip Kelly, like, do you want to run the ball, or do you say, hey, I think I'll take my receivers against man coverage? And I think the answer is easy. The most different dynamic is saying, hey, I'll take my 3-headed monsters out at the wide receiver against Notre Dame's man coverage. We'll get into quick game. We'll get into RPO and attack them through the pass. I know Travion Henderson is going to get some carries, but he's also going to be splitting carries with Quinshon Judkins. He's also going to be splitting carries with Will Howard, who's a capable runner. And then he's also going to be splitting touches with the passing attack of the Buckeye wide receivers. Not to mention, I told you, he's only hit 11 or more twice on the season, I believe, 2 or 3 times. So it's not something that happens anyways. Take the under on rushing attempts.
I like that angle on Leonard quite a bit. I'm going to run to the sports book and get my bet in for that. Okay, Jake, we're going to leave it at that. This isn't it for Jake, though. I know he's been more heavily towards college, but he's going to be sticking around right through the Super Bowl with us. So he's going to be on next Thursday's edition of Before You Bet. We'll put a bow on the college football season, look ahead to the conference championships and the Super Bowl in the NFL. We're going to have a lot to discuss. So, Jake, thank you very much for joining. Enjoy the game. Best of luck with those bets, and we'll catch you next Thursday.
Always a pleasure, Joe. Appreciate it, man.
All right, if we're talking college football betting, of course, we're talking college football betting with our guy down there in sunny Las Vegas, Brad Powers. Brad, how you making out?
Hey, doing well. Looking forward to this big game.
Absolutely. The end is almost here. It's kind of sad, but I am excited for this game. So we're going to get your analysis for the spread and total, a player prop that you like as well. Also some thoughts on live betting strategies, but let's kick around a couple topics here first. So the head coaches, Marcus Freeman, getting a lot of good buzz here coming into this game. People talking about NFL teams wanting to interview him for the head coaching position. Ryan Day, meanwhile, he's 5-6 weeks removed from that embarrassing game at Michigan. Everyone wanted him fired, but he has bounced back beautifully. Ohio State's been an absolute buzzsaw here over their past couple of games. So who do you think has a coaching advantage in this game?
Yeah, I think both are really good. And I'm going to say, include the entire staffs because, coaches today, day and age, are more CEO than anything, specifically at the college level. So both teams have great coordinators, OC and DC, two of the better coaching staffs in the country. I'm just going to refer this more to relative to expectation. And right now, I don't know if there's a better coach team in the country than Notre Dame right now. I mean, look at Marcus Freeman with extra time to preps, 12-0 against the spread, average cover by 14.4 points per game since he took over against ranked teams. Marcus Freeman's 15-3 against the spread. So, since he took over in 2022, Notre Dame has the best ATS record of any team in college football. So relative to expectation, I think right now there's no one better. And then you also look at peculiar, like a number, coaches always say, we got to control the middle eight. Last 4 minutes of the first half, first 4 minutes of the second half. Notre Dame's number one in the country in that this year. 148-17 cumulative score there. So slight edge to Notre Dame here in the coaching department.
Okay, slight edge to the Fighting Irish coaching-wise. What about quarterbacks here? Riley Leonard, Will Howard, two very different type of quarterbacks. Who do you give the edge to at quarterback?
Yeah, obviously this is more of a passing sport in today's day and age. I might have a different answer 30, 40, 50 years ago. It would have been Riley Leonard because he's a better runner. But obviously we're pass dominated. I'm going to go with Will Howard, who very quietly, everybody remembers him, not great clock management in the loss against Oregon, horrific game against Michigan. Reality is full season stats. He's number 2 in the country in QBR. So Will Howard, much better passer than Riley Leonard. I give the edge to the Buckeyes here.
Okay, let's talk some numbers here, spread and total. We'll get a best bet from you as well, then a player prop that you like. So the spread, we're talking on Wednesday. That's when we're recording this interview. It's up to 8.5. It was 7.5 yesterday. So what do you think here? Is the number too big, or do you think it's right?
That's close to being right now. Pure power rating for me says it's a little expensive on the Ohio State side. My power ratings have Ohio State 6.8 to be exact. So that usually would indicate a bet on Notre Dame. I'm not, because, that's just a power rating. That's not diving into the matchups. And I think in a lot of areas, it's a bad matchup for Notre Dame. Specifically, if you look at the teams that have had success defending Ohio State's offense this year, Notre Dame's complete opposite of that. And those teams being, Nebraska, Michigan, even Texas in the semifinal. They play, a too high safety look because they have light boxes because all those teams have, two defensive tackles that are in the 330 pound range. Notre Dame's light on the defensive front. They have to commit more guys to the box on a game in and game out basis. And on top of that, Notre Dame plays more man-to-man coverage than any team in college football. Playing man-to-man coverage against Jeremiah Smith and Egbuka and Carnell Tate. I don't think you can play man-to-man on them guys for 55, 60 snaps and not get beat. So I like the matchup advantages for the Buckeyes.
Okay, let's talk total here. 46.5. Any leans either way here on the total?
I'm going to lean under. Let's just go. I don't think people forget these two teams have played the last 2 years. And did you see those two games? 21-10 Ohio State, 17-14 Ohio State. My third grade math is correct. That's 31 points in both games. I'm going to lean under. And since I lean Ohio State on the side, I lean the under. Let's 1 + 1 = 3 type of situation. Let's combine the two and come up with the best bet. And that's Notre Dame's team total under 17.5. I don't see much of a pathway. Notre Dame's wide receivers are below average. Notre Dame's going to have to, be very creative in their offensive play calling. And I don't think they can run that well with Jeremiah Love, their outstanding running back, less than 100%. So not a great pathway for Notre Dame's offense under 17.5. That's my best bet right now.
Okay, let's add another best bet. We're going to go into the player prop betting market for this one. What do you have for us?
Yeah, let's, kind of coincide that, one opportunity that I think Notre Dame can have some success offensively. I just got done saying I don't like their wide receivers, don't like the production, anybody really in their receiving game, with the exception of the running back. And he's the third string running back. We're going over his receiving yards. His name is Aeneas Williams. And this is a guy that's only got 18 receptions for the season. However, 11 of the 18 in the 3 playoff games. They've leaned on him more in the passing game because they don't trust their wide receivers. And in addition to the fact that Jeremiah Love, their outstanding starting running back, has been banged up. So look for Aeneas Williams. They used him a lot in the Penn State game, 5 receptions for 66 yards. And on top of that, if Ohio State's defense has a weakness, you saw Texas take advantage of it. Texas's 2 touchdowns were screen passes to the running backs out of the backfield. So let's combine the two. Aeneas Williams over 24.5 receiving yards.
Okay, let's end with this. This is going to be the last opportunity for people to bet college football for a while. So people are going to be looking to sink their teeth into whatever they can get. And that includes live betting opportunities. Is there anything that you have on your radar to be on the lookout for to potentially pounce on a bet in game?
Man, and there's 2 different scripts here. I could see it being a little bit slow out of the gates, or I could see Ohio State doing what they've done actually in all 3 playoff games, even to a lesser extent in the Texas game, is get out to a fast start. And if that's the case, I don't know if Notre Dame can play from behind. But I did, if you're looking for a real good opportunity, maybe that middle 8, because Notre Dame is number 1 in the country. But I think the best opportunity, at least game day, that you can take advantage of. And this isn't for everybody because not a lot of people like laying big money line favorites. But if you're if you're a discount shopper, what'll happen is this is an event, outside the Super Bowl, maybe the AFC, NFC championship games. This is the biggest football game of the season. And you get people that normally don't bet, maybe 4 or 5 bets a year. And what they like to do is bet a little to win a lot. Easiest way to do that is the underdog on the money line. Notre Dame's covered 11 in a row. So anybody that's been betting Notre Dame has been covering. So I think you're going to get a cheap money line price on the favorite, that being Ohio State. Looking at -350 or better would be my buy sign there. And a lot of the square books, you'll get maybe 20 or 30 cents cheaper on the favorite on game day on the money line.
Okay, something to be on the lookout for on game day. So Brad will be with us on game day. Of course, we got to cover the game on the day of the game as well. So Brad, you will be back with us on Monday. You'll be with us a little bit through the off season as well. We'll take a look at some team over under, some future stuff, some quarterbacks on the move and whatnot. So thank you for joining us today. Best of luck with your bets and enjoy the game on Monday night.
Hey, thanks for having me as always, Joe.
Okay, we can't talk about the national championship game without doing so with a couple of our in-house guys. So let's bring in the co-hosts of College Football 134 here on the Covers YouTube channel. They've been doing fantastic work for us all season. Andrew and Doug, what's up, fellas? How you making out?
Pretty good. Yeah, it was a good season. We had a lot of fun, right?
Fun's a word. Fun's a word. Some days were better than others.
You
Okay.
like giving me a hard time all season, but we made it through.
Well, hey, one of us bet on Utah to win the national championship. One of us bet on Ohio State to win the national championship to start the year.
It was tough.
Ooh,
It was tough.
Okay, let's look to the future. Let's not rehash the past here. So before we get into your picks, you guys have thoughts on the spread and total, some player props as well. I haven't talked to you guys all season, so I got to get your opinions on the new playoff format. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What would you change? Andrew, we'll start with you.
I loved it. I couldn't believe people were complaining about these blowouts in the first few rounds of the college football playoff. People were forgetting that in the 4-team playoff era, we had blowouts after blowout after blowout. In those, the average score in over 20 semifinal games, so that was between the top 4 teams, average margin of victory of 17.9 points in those games. So people are looking at these games like, this was some outlier when it wasn't at all. And we ended up with the top 4 were the best 4 teams in college football this year. I could make that argument. So it worked out. We weeded out to the best 4 teams, and we've got a great national championship. It kept us involved. It kept players playing longer into the season. Overall, great thing for college football. I really enjoy it.
We got late into November, and there were still 25 teams who could wake up on that Saturday morning and think, like, I can make the playoff. And it was delusional for UNLV to ever think it could win the national title, but it wasn't delusional for UNLV to think it would be on the main stage. To have that kind of impact in the regular season has been forgotten because people obsessed over those first-round blowouts, which, as Taco said, were pro forma. Those were what we always saw all those years. And then we don't have to deal with Florida State feeling aggrieved, justifiably so, that it was left out of the playoff. Instead, we have people like Alabama complaining. Congratulations. You lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. I don't care what your complaints are. You don't matter. To have that be the delineation point, we are forgetting how much nicer that life is compared to worrying about Florida State in the past.
It was really great
of it as well. Okay, guys, let's get into some best bets here. Let's start with meat and potatoes stuff, spreads, totals. So we're talking here on Wednesday. It's up to 8.5 in favor of Ohio State, obviously. Total 46.5. What are you thinking here, Andrew?
Well, full disclosure, Doug and I actually agree on a lot of bets this time, which has not gone well in our 134 history, but we've broken our little curse. I will take the total here. I'm on the under, but specifically the first half under, 23.5. This is a matchup of 2 elite defenses. Ohio State leads the nation in opponent EPA per play. These are 2 top 10 success rate teams, and Notre Dame has the best pass defense in the country as well. First in EPA per dropback, first in defensive success rate on dropbacks, and that is going to be very key when you're going up against a team that has Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka. But at the same time, Notre Dame knows this, and Notre Dame is going to sell out. They're going to not let Jeremiah Smith beat them in this game, and that will open up things in the running game, I think. So you'll see Chip Kelly handing the ball off to his 2 running backs, Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson, a lot in this one. So running the football and good defenses, that equals an under to me. I prefer the first half under too, because college football, there seems to be a little more variance in the second half, and these star players kind of break out a little more as the game goes on. So I think once the game is more scripted, we get that first half under.
I agree with that, but boy, if we're talking under and we have a 2-score underdog, originally I was on Notre Dame plus 9.5 to start the week, and I was hoping to see a plus 10. That obviously never came to reality. I'm still taking this plus 8.5. It's not just because Marcus Freeman is going to shorten this game, which he will. He did it to open the 2022 season against his alma mater. Yes, Ohio State, because the talent gap was that big that year. He shortened that game and ended up being 21-10. Notre Dame covered a 15-point spread. He's going to shorten this game too to take the ball out of that Ohio State offense's hands. And at that point, it's going to come down to third downs. Nobody is better at late downs than Notre Dame this time of year. If you look at Ohio State's 4 one-score games, plus the Cotton Bowl, which was effectively a one-score game, Ohio State converted less than a third of its third downs, while opponents converted better. Notre Dame converts more than half its third downs, holds opponents to about a quarter of conversions in the playoff. That kind of difference is how you keep within 2 possessions in a title game.
Yeah, I'm hoping we see a nice tight game here. That'd be nice to see. Jake Butt thinks the opposite. He's thinking Ohio State pretty big here. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. You guys each like a couple of props here. You each have 2. Andrew, get us rolling here. What are your 2 favorite props for the big game here on Monday night?
I'm leaning into that thought that Notre Dame is going to do everything that it can, like anybody but Jeremiah Smith in this one. And we saw what happens when you open up those lanes for they did exactly that against Penn State, and both the Penn State running backs, Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, rushed for over 80 yards in their Orange Bowl matchup, and I can see something similar in this. And I love the number with Travion Henderson, over 52.5 rushing yards. He has been, for me, the more effective of the two backs, even though Quinshon Judkins has been the guy who gets most of the headlines. Henderson averages 7.3 yards per attempt this season. Obviously, looked electric in that 75-yard screen pass at the end of the first half of the Cotton Bowl, which kind of changed the game there. He consistently goes over this number in big games. Oregon twice, Tennessee, he had 80 yards. So he has been the big guy in the big games. I like Henderson over that number. And these feel like Ohio State bets, but they're actually supporting this Notre Dame pass defense. So we're going Carnell Tate over 3.5 receptions, which I love at plus 130. I love this plus money. Taking away Jeremiah Smith, and this is what happened in the Cotton Bowl. Texas took him away, but Will Howard was like, okay, I'm going to take what you're going to give me. And that was Carnell Tate. He was targeted 9 times in that game, went for 87 yards, caught 7 of those. I think he gets in that similar range now. 3.5 looks like a great number, especially at the plus money.
It is curious. You attack this game. We agree on the total and the spread. You attack it via these Ohio State aspects, saying Notre Dame's pass defense is going to show up. I'm attacking it, endorsing Notre Dame's running game as a way of shortening the game. Leading off with a Riley Leonard anytime touchdown. You can get that around plus 125. He's got 16 rushing touchdowns this season with a beat-up offensive line that's still very good and probably not getting enough credit right now, but a beat-up offensive line. One way to get an extra blocker is to keep the ball in Riley Leonard's hands. Notre Dame inside the 5, expect him to be charging up the middle, avoid those dynamic Buckeyes defensive ends, and get into the end zone. It helps slow the game down, and there's no reason to protect Riley Leonard's body anymore. All due respect, he's had a great season. Notre Dame doesn't care if he can play another game. They just want this title. And then another way to help shore up that offensive line, you've got a left tackle situation where we don't know who's going to start, Tosh Baker or Charles Jagasa, after Anthony Knapp had a high ankle sprain back in the Orange Bowl. Whoever starts there is going to need help. Going against 2 NFL caliber defensive ends, one way to get them help, have your tight end stay in line and block more. Mitchell Evans did not do that to start the season against Texas A&M when Notre Dame again had left tackle worries because he wasn't healthy yet. The other tight ends did. Most of their snaps were in line. Mitchell Evans is now healthy. He will take most of the tight end snaps, and he will not be running routes as often. So give me the under 34.5 receiving yards as a way of endorsing Notre Dame slowing the game down, running the ball, and keeping somebody in line to prevent those dynamic, spectacular defensive ends from wreaking too much havoc.
Okay, great stuff from the fellas here today. Some bets to consider tailing. That is not it from Andrew and Doug, though. They're going to be going live here on the Covers YouTube channel, 5:30 Eastern on game day, Monday. Maybe taking advantage of some market moves, some late-breaking news. There's always new markets opening up for a big game like this as well. So we'll look forward to checking that out, fellas. Thank you very much for joining.
Appreciate it, Joe.
Yes, sir. All right. Some good stuff from all 4 of our guests today. And I can't believe it. The end of the college football season is almost here. Won't be long, though, until we're breaking down over-unders, digging into futures, and then getting ready for a whole new season next summer. I cannot wait. Hopefully we get a competitive game here on Monday night. I don't think that's too much to ask for. So we will leave it at that, but we're going to be all over this game from many different angles. Those guys are going live before you bet on Monday. Brad Powers will be back to take another look at the game then. So make sure you tune in. Enjoy the game. Best of luck with your bets, and we will see you next time we see you